Hey, Pastor, have you ever felt the pressure to justify your leadership to people who've already decided that they don't trust you? Well, Jesus faced this in Mark chapter 11. It came in the form of a question that wasn't really a question. In fact, it was a trap. And how he responds will reshape how you can handle criticism and opposition in ministry without feeling like you got to defend yourself. I'm Doug Graham, and this is Pastor Soul Reset, your moment to breathe, refocus, and remember that when you're carrying the weight of ministry leadership, Jesus is carrying you. Jesus is walking in the temple courts. It's Tuesday of Holy Week, and the tension is thick. The chief priests and teachers of the law and the elders, which is the Sanhedrin, they approach Jesus and they ask, "By what authority are you doing these things?" See, that was the issue. It wasn't what Jesus was doing, but who gave him the authority to do what he was doing? And Jesus responds with a question about John the Baptist. Well, let me ask you, was his baptism from heaven or from men? Seemed like a redirect, but it's not. In fact, it was brilliant. See, here's what Jesus does. He traces back his baptism by John as the genesis of his authorization. You recall the heavens opened up, the Spirit descended, and the Father declared loud, "You are my Son." And here's the point of all this vouching for Jesus. He doesn't operate under human approval, but in fact, he carries divine authority, rooted in his identity as the Son of God. Now, this is a big deal because the religious leaders didn't actually want truth, they wanted control. And Mark tells us that they discussed among themselves, and in the Greek, it means they were strategizing. They weren't sincere. They weren't open. They were calculating. And when they can't answer the question, they simply say, "Well, we don't know." Not because they lacked information, but because they lacked honesty. See, here's the deal, and it's true today. Opposition to Jesus is never intellectual. It's always volitional. If you admit who Jesus really is, then you've got to yield. You need to surrender. You got to bow. You got to follow. And here's the relevancy for pastors. You're going to face your critics, but some will never be convinced. So what do? Love them anyway. Keep winning more souls. Keep discipling those who are hungry to grow. And when you feel like you're being cornered like Jesus, don't expend unnecessary energy on the unconvinced. Just keep winning those who need and want Jesus. And keep discipling those who are hungry to grow. Fact is, some questions don't deserve an answer, especially when those questions are rooted in resistance. So you might ask yourself, whose approval is tapping too much of my emotional energy lately? Listen, left unrecognized, that'll drain you faster than almost anything in ministry. You don't lead because everybody agrees with you. You lead because Jesus entrusted something to you. So here's a couple of things you can do. Number one, discern the difference between sincere questions and strategic traps. And secondly, anchor your identity every day in what God has already spoken over you, not what the critics are saying around you. You don't have to answer every voice, but you do need to obey his voice. Next time on Pastor Soul Reset, we'll step into a story that Jesus tells right after this moment, a parable that exposes what happens when leaders reject God's authority altogether. And that passage has a way of resetting a pastor's soul. Now, if today your spirit was encouraged, please take a second, subscribe to my channel, drop a comment. I'd love to hear from you. But most of all, never forget, as you carry the burdens of others, Jesus is carrying you. I'll see you next time on Pastor Soul Reset.